last year, who just have such a special place in my heart. So it was great to be able to see them again. Okay. Guy told us yesterday that when you have nerves, they're not nerves, they're butterflies, and that it's a good thing because it means that you care. So thank you for letting me embrace my butterflies right now. When I grow up, I want to be. This prompt has echoed in the halls of classrooms around the world year after year. And most kids tend to change their answers just as often as they do their socks. But for me, I've known I wanted to teach since I was 8 years old. In fact, my parents have owned and operated childcare programs my whole life. My afternoons entailed coming home from school to a sea of kids running around exploring the world. And it wasn't until I met my husband at age 17 that I realized my childhood is not so normal. I remember telling him, "You mean everyone doesn't spend time dressed up as punk rockers with their parents every summer?" I was raised to help others grow, and I loved it. I want to thank my parents, and I can't look at them over there because they're crying and I'm not going to get through my speech, but thank you to my parents over there. That love was further cultivated by my childhood teachers, whose caring demeanor and unrivaled passion solidified my desire to teach. I remember my first grade teacher, Miss Itami, who truly made teaching her life's work. At the end of each year, she would throw away her lesson plan book, stating that if the lesson wasn't good enough, or if she couldn't remember it, it wasn't good enough, and if she'd remember it, then it was good enough. And as a kid, I thought she was crazy for that. And as a teacher, I can say with certainty that she was crazy for that. But it's something that I often think back of every week as I'm planning my own lessons, remembering Mrs. Itami. But it was my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Corey, that locked in my decision. I can't tell you what she taught me about fractions that year, or much of anything about the rock cycle. But I remember staying in her room dancing to music. I remember cheering her on as she competed with the boys in an impromptu pull-up competition. And I remember sitting together as a class, eating popcorn and crying as we watched the end of Where the Red Fern Grows. It was Mrs. Corey's relationship with the class that hooked me. And it's a relationship that I strive to recreate every year with my students. Now fast forward 25 years, and that relationship building, both between students and within the community, is the primary building block of my teaching. My classroom is a space for my students. Their decisions, values, and opinions are an integral part of our day-to-day. From seating arrangements to project ideas, from content to our weekly challenges. Their sense of ownership in the learning has led to a safe space where my students feel empowered to find their voice, take risks, and change the world. But I feel that it's important for teachers to not only encourage risk-taking and innovation, but to also demonstrate it. In fact, my colleagues refer to me as the first penguin, because many of my lessons begin with me telling my students, "Guys, I just learned about a new tool, and we're gonna try it today. I have no idea if it's gonna work, but let's give it a shot." And I wanna say real quick that I firmly believe that if teachers are going to ask their students to be innovative, then we need to provide them with a safe space to be innovative. And if administrators are going to ask their teachers to be innovative, then they need to be provided with a safe space for teachers to be innovative. And I wanna thank my administrators who are here today, because 4 years ago when I went to my principal and I told her that I wanted to get rid of all the desks and chairs and bring in yoga balls, futons, and standing tables, she said okay. And I have a superintendent who really challenges our district to not just learn from speakers, but to learn from each other, and host Super Saturdays where it's teachers teaching other teachers and just embracing the risk-taking. And it's something that I really appreciate. Because even if I can't see what's beneath the water, I'm always willing to jump in. And I know that if my students see me think outside the box and fail forward and take pride in tackling the unknown, then they will do it too. And this atmosphere of support and empowerment has led to a slew of inspiring ideas and innovative ideas, but no more so than with the seekers. Mark Twain said that kindness is a language that the blind can see and the deaf can hear. So in 2019, after challenging my class to complete one random act of kindness each day for the month, I hoped that they would find pride in being kind. But what they found was their passion, and they wanted to use their voice to do something about it. So the Seekers was born. And we all became penguins, jumping in head first. Together, we learned how to effectively design logos. We learned how to post Instagram stories. Well, actually, they taught me how to post Instagram stories because I had no idea what it was. And they taught me, or we learned how to make kindness challenge videos, which now go out weekly to over 300 participating classes around the world. And one of the simplest and most innovative ideas one of my students had was to turn our business cards into pay-it-forward cards. And by including a blank space on the back of each card, the students now handwrite in one act of kindness challenge for the recipient to complete and pass on to the next person, thus continuing our ripple of kindness. And what kind of teacher would I be if I didn't use this opportunity, with a room full of people who are forced to listen to me whether you like it or not, to help my students spread their message. So at each table, you'll find our Pay It Forward cards. And my students only ask that each of you take a card and join us in making the world a kinder place, completing the challenge, and then passing it on to the next person. Now let me tell you off that having a class of 36 students asked to make logos, business cards, websites, and social media pages to spread kindness was not on my lesson plan. But pushing that social studies lesson back and condensing the science unit to make time for it was the best decision that I've made. Because I think that why teach them to be future world changers when they can be current world changers? I was recently asked how I wanted to be remembered by my students. And immediately my brain began to turn. Do I want to be remembered as the teacher who was innovative, the teacher who was kind, the teacher who was empowering? But then I realized something. We hear about how relationships are the backbone of a successful classroom. And we as teachers spend months developing a trusting, safe environment for our students, growing together. But that doesn't end when the final bell rings on the last day of school. And that's what I want my students to remember, is that I'm here and I'm always here. I love when former students message me asking for advice after fighting with a friend, or send me a picture of their high school math homework asking for help. And my poor family can attest to my notorious habit of stopping our dinner conversation to pull a restaurant napkin out, really quickly model the problem, take a picture, and send it back to the student. Yes, I want my students to remember that I empowered them to find their voice, and I showed them the power of a simple act of kindness. But mostly, I want them to remember the relationship. I give my students a letter on the last day of school that ends by saying, once my kid, always my kid. And we as teachers want nothing more than for our students to remember those words. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be someone's Mrs. Corey. Thank you.